Today, we're going to talk about the curious case of the gentleman pirate, which brings up a few questions right away. Why would a gentleman become a pirate? Would he be very good at it? And if he was caught, would his status as a gentleman afford him any leniency? For the answers to those questions and more, stick around. I'm the Seersucker Guy, and today we're going to talk about Stede Bonnet, the gentleman pirate. Born in 1688, Stede Bonnet was the son of a wealthy plantation owner in Bridgetown, Barbados. He later took over the plantation when he was orphaned, and he did pretty well for himself. At 21, he married the daughter of a nearby plantation owner. He later became a major in the local militia being on the land. I want you to remember that for later. And then even in 1716, he became the Justice of the Peace. And then something happened. And in 1717, Stede Bonnet drew up papers so that his wife and two friends could take over the family plantation. Then he secretly purchased a sloop, armed it with 10 guns, and hired 70 men out of Barbados to crew it. Now, the question that probably comes to your mind is why? Why would somebody do this? He had a life of luxury. He had a family. He was doing well for himself. Why give that up to go become a pirate? Well, there are lots of theories. One is that his wife was nagging him and he wanted to escape her. Okay, that might be true. Another one is that there was a lot of wealth in piracy. At this point in time, pirates were making a ton of money. It was a dangerous career, but it was a lucrative career if you were good at it. Modern historians even look to a different reason why, one that involves his sexuality. Because homosexuality was criminalized at that time, but on ships, what happened on the ship stayed on the ship. That's been posited out there as well. The truth is, even at his death, he never said why he became a pirate. Now, Stede Bonnet had no business being a pirate. He was simply not cut out for it as a gentleman. He didn't really drink with the crew, which made them suspicious. He spent most of his time in his cabin, that is, when he wasn't throwing up over the side from seasickness. He liked to dress in his fine clothes. And his crew, who were hired, by the way, which is not how it normally worked, they understood that he was not very good, and they were actually thinking about a mutiny when they crossed paths with Blackbeard. We all know the name Blackbeard. Big guy, imposing, long beard, very good at what he did. Blackbeard was also very, very shrewd. And when he came across Stede Bonnet, he could tell right away, this guy was not made for this life. And he knew that his crew was unhappy. And Blackbeard had a nice little thought that he could use an extra ship. So he went to Stede Bonnet and said, "Oh, you look horrible. I think you need a rest. Why don't you come across my ship? You can stay in my cabin and read and relax, and I'll put somebody on your ship to take care of it for you." And just like that, Blackbeard had another ship. There is something important I want to stop here and tell you about piracy during this time period. It was welcomed by most of the colonies in America, because that's how they got things they otherwise couldn't get. Pirates like Stede Bonnet would often come to cities like Charlestown, and he would sell the goods that he had gotten off ships from other places. He got money, the merchants got something to sell. It was good for everyone. So a lot of these pirates were well known in these waters, and that's important to remember moving forward. Blackbeard and Stede Bonnet are going to work together for a little while, and then Blackbeard comes up with an audacious plan. In May of 1718, he takes his fleet of ships, including Stede Bonnet, and he blockades Charlestown's harbor. Now, this is a big deal. Suddenly, they're not selling their goods anymore. They're keeping the citizens, merchants, everyone in Charlestown from getting anything into the harbor. Blackbeard's ships blockaded it, wouldn't let anybody in or out. They took hostages. They were having a grand old time, and there was nothing Charlestown could do about it. So after more than 7 days, Charlestown gave in to Blackbeard's demands, which was food and medical supplies mostly, and they sailed away to the north. Now, after they left, Charlestonians outfitted 2 ships with guns and sent them after Blackbeard and Stede Bonnet. They did not get Blackbeard, but after a pitched battle in North Carolina, they did capture Stede Bonnet and some members of his crew. When they brought him back to Charlestown, immediately, a lot of the merchants in the city came to where he was being kept and told the judge, hey, we think he's a great guy. We don't want him to be prosecuted. We think you should let him go and show him some leniency. Why did they do this? Because they were very much afraid that Stede Bonnet would start naming names, and he would tell everybody in the city who he was working with and who was supporting piracy. Even though it was sort of on the down low, nobody wanted to be brought out into the light because of that. So what that meant is rather than put into the prison at the time at the corner of East Bay and Broad Streets, Stede Bonnet was put in the marshal's home under house arrest, where he escaped, dressed as a woman. When Stede Bonnet escaped, again dressed like a woman, he escaped with one of his lieutenants, and they went out to Sullivan's Island. And it was getting chilly, because now it was the fall of 1718. And Stede Bonnet lit a fire, because he was cold. Well, if you were shipwrecked on an island up and down the coast near Charlestown, what do you think you were supposed to do to let people know you were shipwrecked and needed help? Build a fire. He was quickly captured, brought back to Charlestown, where he was put at the bottom of the guardhouse in the prison there. Now, the guardhouse stood where the old Exchange building stands today, again at the corner of Broad and East Bay Streets. Despite pleas from a lot of people in town, Stede Bonnet was found guilty of piracy and sentenced to be hanged. On December 10th in 1718, Stede Bonnet was taken from the guardhouse prison, put into a cage mounted in the back of a cart, and driven down East Bay Street towards the Battery. People lined the streets to see this event. People often came out to public hangings, but this one was special because of who it was being hanged. In Charleston, we tell a story of this young girl who runs out from the side of the street and hands up a flower to Stede Bonnet, who clutched it like it was going to save his life. It didn't. And Stede Bonnet was hanged down near the waterfront. It said that as his body dropped, he dropped that flower onto the ground. His body was left there for several days as a warning to other pirates, and when he was taken down, his body was just tossed unceremoniously into the mud. It's thought that today the modern seawall around what is White Point Gardens down at the Battery probably contains what little remains of Stede Bonnet. So there you have it. We don't really know why Stede Bonnet became a pirate. We know he wasn't a very good pirate, and we know that he did not get any leniency because of his status in society. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like and subscribe. There are more videos on the way. I'm the Seersucker Guy.